last bit of the beer? Are you taking the last bit? Come here, bring yours.
Okay, so we showed you this video on First Coast News at 11 Friday night. A gator-wielding man chasing people around a Jacksonville convenience store. What in the world?
It's video now that's been seen around the world, and just a few hours ago we learned that this incident is tonight under criminal investigation. Juliet Dreyer is on your side. She has an update on this wild story.
Is he taking the last bit of the beer? Are you taking the last bit? Come here, bring yours.
It sounds like the beginning of your typical joke. A Florida man walks into a bar. Or in this case, into a convenience store, carrying a live alligator. But who will have the last laugh?
The disregard for the alligator in this case is very, very concerning. And that's why I wanted to make sure that my folks were aware and on the case.
Karen Parker with Florida Fish and Wildlife revealed Monday afternoon that the incident is currently under criminal investigation with FWC.
There's actually two different statutes that address alligators.
The first one says, in part, a person may not intentionally kill, injure, possess, or capture, or attempt to kill, injure, possess, or capture an alligator. The second reads, a person may not take or possess any alligator or the eggs thereof without having been issued an alligator license. Parker says investigators will determine what, if any, charges are brought, but they could range from second-degree misdemeanor to a third-degree felony. We reached out to the man in the video this afternoon. He declined an interview and did not respond when we asked whether he knew of any charges against him.
That was Juliet Dreyer reporting tonight. Now, FWC says it's looking to talk to more people who may know more about this incident. So if you have any information, you can call FWC's Wildlife Alert Hotline. The number's right there on your screen.